Hey there everyone, welcome back to Little Nightmares 2. Previously, we exited the hospital and started exploring more of the Pale City. We came across a TV one more time and we were finally able to reach the door in the long hallway before Six could stop us, revealing that the Thin Man was behind the door and that we had released him. He caught up with us rather quickly and kidnapped Six, leaving behind a glitching remain. We continued on through the Pale City, coming across the viewers who seemed obsessed with the TVs, bringing the theme of escapism to the forefront because they've been hinting at that quite a bit. And we were eventually pursued by the Thin Man to a final encounter. This is where we learned that Mono had powers rivaling that of the lady, I would say, and Six, as he was able to move around using the TV screens, destroy the Thin Man, and move himself directly to the signal tower, which seemed to be quite a distance away. We ended by entering the tower, so let's see what is inside. We can already hear the main theme playing. If you remember, the only other time we've heard that like in the game has been when Six had the music box at the beginning, when we were in the wilderness. And so you'll probably notice that things are a little bit warped here already. So that goes for a lot of stuff, not just visually. So when I said this place is warped, there's obviously a visible side to that. As you can see, there's also kind of a space-time warp going on here. Because if I go through a door, you a lot of times end up coming out in the same room. What we need to do is follow the music. That is how we will find Six. I do believe that's supposed to be kind of like her theme. If not the theme of the game. The sound is even warped in here. Oh god, look how the doors are like warped to like folding. That is cool. It's behind me. It's not here. Can I go in here? That looks like a drop. It's not letting me go. Okay. Guess I don't have a choice. Oh, there we go. We're going up and up and up. I love the staircases. And the coloring. Look, my shadow's casting on the... I'm standing at the back right. My shadow's casting on the bottom left. See? That's so cool. Before I go in there, I think there's I know there's a place where we can knock down a plank. I just want to make sure I don't miss it. I'm pretty sure that had me stuck for a bit when I was first in here. It doesn't look like it's letting me push it. Do I have to... Oh, I bet I have to open this door first. Yeah, I bet I... Okay, so which one do I gotta go through? That one. And then this one? Yep. Okay. Straight across. There we go. Okay. This place is huge. There's the plank. Oh, it's on this side. That sounded close. Is it over here? No other side. Okay. Oh my god, look at the wall. That looks kind of like intestines. I love the way the particles kind of pull back into the room, into the stairwell area. That don't sound good. There's the culprit. Hey there. What did this place do to you? I still don't know how to explain this one. And she can't hurt you, so... Yeah, that's the right reaction to this. Okay. So, she's being docile right now, but she's not gonna like this, but it's the only way to get out of here. So she's developed an obsession for the music box. Wow, I missed. Okay, she's gonna be pissed. Oh my god. Oh my god, she's right there. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm not here. Look how long her hair is. That actually really intrigues me. I mean, she's disturbing. I know the arms and the legs are disturbing, but the hair actually is the part that intrigues me the most. And oh my god, what is that painting? And there's another one. I've never noticed those paintings before. I don't know what that is. Can I reach that? Okay, so this is kind of a puzzle. Oh! This is a lot harder than it looks, too. Every time we hit it, we end up in a room like this. Okay, so I think we need to do some back and forth here. Oh my god. See the way she just like followed me across the room? Yeah, she can hit you through the door. This one is really hard. Because of that. Right into that back arm. I did that way too slow. I did that way too slow. No! Okay, I'm alive. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up! No! No, I'm not over here! Oh my god. Oh my god, oh my god! music box is finally breaking. I don't know exactly what's done this to her. I don't know if anybody does, because there's not much information on this. We had the same idea there. Oh my god. No. Oh my god, that's gross. So that was the end of the game. Before we start digging into that, one, you can see that this TV screen was on there as I came through it. But we get a new hat for that. And I said you could probably guess what this is. It's the Fedora. So you should get a trophy for this called How Do I Look? The description says perfect. It's so you. Very fitting towards that ending. You just have to pop into the chapter and equip this. You should also get, at this point, if you've been following me, a trophy called Far Ahead. The description says hats are very important to some people, and by acquiring the Fedora, you should have the final hat you need for that trophy, which is basically the second collection trophy for hats. And then you should also get, again, if you've been following everything, a trophy called Primetime Content Consumer. Description says your life is now free of challenges. Congratulations. And that's just the platinum trophy for getting everything. Alright, so before I get into the discussion of the story on this, I do want to point out again that I have a link in the description under the YouTube channel for Gamersalts. Around there has this large video collection of Little Nightmares discussion stuff where he's gone over ideas based on all the content we know about it and thoughts on what it means in greater context. And of course, some of it's just ideas. It's not all hard evidence or anything. But that's the source I've been using for most of my lore discussion type stuff and story discussion and making connections. So I just want to put that in there because his videos are really good, worth watching, and it's really helped me kind of piece together the story and come up with some of my own thoughts as well. So usually I like to discuss the events of the game at the end, but I want to say let's skip over the usual discussion and first address the elephant in the room, Six's betrayal and Mano's fate. There was a whole lot thrown at us throughout this chapter, especially as we near the end and through to the final scenes. The big question, of course, is why did Six betray Mano? So let's first consider Mano and Six as characters. So I want to talk a little bit about Mano himself, then Six, and we'll kind of draw back towards this. And I am going somewhere with this discussion. It's gonna sound like I'm going way off the rails, but I promise that it's coming to a conclusion. So Six trapped Mano inside the signal tower, where he was trapped and eventually grew into the Thin Man, which begs a few questions. Are Mano and the Thin Man the same person? Or did Mano become the new Thin Man to replace him? And this has actually been addressed in an interview. In the interview, the question was, and I'll link this in the description as well, the ending heavily suggests that Mano is always destined to become the Thin Man, and this is an endless cycle, which is a common theme in this game and actually parallels the first game. And the question says, in other words, the two are one and the same. With that said, some fans also believe that Mano is a successor to the Thin Man. It's a role that's passed down, and that they are actually two different people. Which is it? And the developer simply said it's all of that. So which is inferring that they are the same person, and Mano is the successor at the same time. Mano represents the child version of the person that's surpassing the Thin Man, the adult version, and takes his place in the signal tower, doomed or fated to repeat the cycle and continue things as it goes. So let's go back and reconsider Mano's description from the website. It says his thin paper mask offers some respite, helping him forget that the world outside hates him and wants him to fail, but he can't stay hidden forever. Obviously, he can't stay hidden forever if he's to continue the cycle. That's how cycles work, and become the Thin Man. But why does the world outside hate him and want him to fail? If you review earlier scenes, such as where the hunter shoots at Mano and never targets Six, or how the doctor goes right past Six and into the incinerator where Mano is, you might think that's scripted, but maybe the reason that no one ever seems to target her, other than like the porcelain children, is because they actually recognize Six, because it's the larger antagonists that seem to be going after me more specifically. But maybe they recognize Mano as the Thin Man and somehow know what he is. Therefore, the world outside hates him because they know if he succeeds, he will become the Thin Man and perpetuate the cycle, going back to why he wears a mask, concealing his identity. And one idea that has been brought forth that I think is really interesting is that there's been a suggestion that the hunter is an independent entity. He was far away enough from the signal tower that possibly he wasn't captured by it like the others, and this is all just speculation, but he's somehow still caught in this loop, this cycle, where he's repeatedly killed by Mono and Six, which would explain, if you look at him, why he was so disfigured and why he has trouble breathing. It's kind of thought that he's just being killed over and over and over again, maybe even in different ways, but, we shot him, like, pretty much in the chest, close to the face. Then there's the doctor. Maybe there's a similar case with the doctor and being burned alive in the incinerator over and over again. It's a cycle. The cycle has to continue. So if things are continuing the same, we have the same entities essentially coming back somehow to perpetuate that cycle. So let's go back to Six's betrayal then. Why did Six betray Mono? There are some that think that she is just evil. There are some that think she resented Mono for destroying the music box. I don't really like either of those reasons personally. There's a lot of other ideas that have come up. There are two that caught my attention that have been brought up. Some think that she knew Mono would become, knew what Mono would become, and there are some that think she didn't want to kill Mono, but that she knew she had to. Those reasons intrigue me, particularly if you include them as one, if they're part of the same reason. I think I pulled this from the official website partly, and there may be other stuff where I got it from, but there was a section that stated with Six, the girl in a yellow raincoat. As his guide, Mono sets out to discover the dark secrets of the signal tower and save Six from her terrible fate. What terrible fate was that referring to? Was it simply referring to Six being trapped in the signal tower, or is it referring to Six becoming the successor to the lady? After dropping Mono, Six returned to the room where she was caught by the Thin Man and reunited with Shadow Six that I brought up in the first game. Remember, whenever Six bites into into meat or her victims, the Shadow Six I mentioned would show up somewhere in the room whenever the light started to flicker. And then Six, immediately after she sees the Shadow looks over at this little picture of the maw, and Six starts having those hunger pains. The first time we've seen her do that in this game. She's never done that before up till now. Which goes back to the idea, is this a sequel or a prequel? A common point of debate has been whether Little Nightmares 2 was a true sequel, continuing the events of Little Nightmares, or if it's a prequel to Little Nightmares in terms of events and how they happen. The developers have commented on this at several points. In some cases, they've in a really misleading way. But there is one excerpt, and I will share this. The interviewer asked, "We'd love to get this cleared up. Is Little Nightmares 2 a prequel? Because the true ending definitely suggests that's the case. But the internet is tearing itself apart over it." And the developer had a good response. They said, "The internet has a tendency to do that, so let me be controversial and actually answer the question. The story of Little Nightmares 2 does indeed take place before the story of Little Nightmares." So that part of it, they are kind of going on a continuous line of events. Now consider this. Did the ending of Mono's story in Little Nightmares 2 seem to have similarities to the ending of Six's story in Little Nightmares? There's a revelation that they both have these supernatural powers, and they each surpass a figure in a position of power. So there's no reason that we shouldn't ask if Six and the lady are the same person, just the same, where Six surpasses the lady and takes her place to watch over the maw, continuing that cycle as a part of this. Which is a common theme that the people thought might have been a part of this to begin with when they played Little Nightmares, before we even got to this and knew there was a cycle. So let's return to the signal tower for a second. In her monstrous form, Six had significantly longer hair, similar color to that of the lady, so the kind of black hair color. And I pointed out that it was long. That's why I was pointing it out. It kind of made it more reminiscent of the lady's hair, because hers was long as well. There was also an image of a younger girl in there with her face scratched out, exactly the same one that we saw in the ladies' quarters in the maw. If we consider Six's description, it states that she has already seen more than any normal child ever should, but then Six is not a normal child. Six never demonstrated her powers prior to consuming the lady. However, we noted in Little Nightmares that the lights flicker whenever she feeds, and we observed this here again when she found the raincoat. Just a reminder that we observed the same flickering with the lady when the runaway kid saw her reflection and turned him into a gnome. Now, we know that the lady turns the runaway children into gnomes from Secrets of the Maw. So ask yourself, where else have we found gnomes? Recall that Mono found Six in the house in the wilderness, and there was a gnome in the attic, likely inferring that Six turned another child into that gnome. Which would mean that she already had her powers to begin with, like Mono, and she just wasn't using them. Maybe she didn't know how to use them, maybe she was suppressing them, maybe she doesn't have the power to really, it's thought, there's somewhere in the description, I don't think I have it here, but it said that Six is fading in some way. I think that was on the official website, that she's fading somehow. So also recall that we connected a few points between Six and the lady in Little Nightmares, such as the lady having a vision of Six coming to the Maw, and Six dreaming about the lady at the beginning of the story. Now, there are many people that dispute this, saying that the developers stated that Six and the lady have no relationship, but that's not the case. If you go back to the interview, they directly asked, it says, is Six related to the lady? And they gave a really lengthy description on this one that's not very direct, but I think it answers that question. We get this question fairly often, and it seems the majority of people want them to be some sort of mother-daughter combo. I don't know what that says about the general feelings we all have about our mothers, but I can say I was once trapped on a train for half an hour and none of the other passengers were my mother. Maybe it's what we expect of drama after a lifetime reading Joseph Campbell's Sophocles, or the person that started the whole tradition, George Lucas, but the reality is that these two characters have been thrown together by forces beyond their control. The child wants to escape, and the adult wants to keep the child trapped forever. How people see that as a mother-daughter relationship, I just don't know. All that tells me is that there is no mother-daughter relationship, not that there is no relationship between them. Therefore, I think we can conclude that Six, like Mono, is the lady as he is to the Thin Man. They are the same person. They're not related. They literally are the same person at a different point in their life. And that Six represents the child version and the lady represents the adult version, and we know that Six surpasses her to take over the Maw, essentially, doomed again to repeat the cycle, the same as Mono. It's a cycle. Going back to the idea again we'll kind of come around back to the prequel-sequel idea again. I think I have some additional notes on that, but it is a cycle, so technically it is both. Even though the events occur in a specific order, they always occur, so it's always going to be both. This has already happened before. So keeping that idea in mind, let's go back to the idea that Six knew what Mono would become, and that she didn't want to kill him, but knew that she had to. So just pretend for a minute that she didn't want to. If you go back to the scene where Six was holding Mono, she holds him there for a while before letting him go. And it's been pointed out that it's almost as if she was hesitating, and that she didn't really want to drop him. So why did she go through with it? Assuming that Six knew Mono would become the Thin Man and continue the cycle, then she could have felt as though she needed to drop him to sustain herself. She was just following self-preservation because she probably knows what's in store for the future. The signal tower has been pacifying the viewers, who would eventually become the guests on the Maw, and if Six is going to become the lady, then she will eventually need the guests to feed her hunger, and Mono becomes a component needed in keeping that cycle going. After all, what would happen to the transmission if there was no Thin Man? We don't really know. But it's an idea. That would explain why she needed him there to keep the signal going. Assuming that he's a part of keeping that broadcast. So that's my spiel on Six and Mono. I don't really find Six to be evil. Yes, she is dark, she does a lot of questionable things, but look at the world they are living in. I don't necessarily see her as an evil entity in this. I'm not saying she's good by any means. She's definitely got a twisted side to her. But I just don't inherently see her as evil. So, if we go back to... if we kind of bring up another concept here. There is one more aspect of the story that I would have talked about earlier if I didn't want to go through that spiel, that I wanted to put off just because I think it makes more sense now if we consider the ideas I just put forward. All the characters in Little Nightmares, from the janitor that we first came across and came across to the doctor that we came across here, kind of leaving the Thin Man out of this, seem to conform to what some call the Eye, or the Eye Monster. I just like calling it the Eye. Anytime that the signal tower was disrupted by Mono hitting the music box, or when he first transported between the TVs, we could see mounds of flesh all around us with eyes watching us. Eyes have been a common theme in the story. And there are thoughts that the Eye is creating this time loop where these characters are trapped, and that the Eye is interfering indirectly, because some people think it can't actually directly do anything, through the broadcast to drive these obsessions, such as the hunger driving people to the maw, or escapism with the viewers fixating on the TVs, or the other antagonists fixating on their past life in some way. So a common point of these stories is that the children themselves are the little nightmares, and perhaps the reason is because they're the ones not conforming to the Eye. They're not following these obsessions. There are also thoughts that the Eye created Mono, which I think is kind of an interesting take, in order to keep the loop going. And I would assume Six and the other children as well, in some aspect. If it created Mono, maybe it created them as well, which would make them the little nightmares to the adults rather than to the Eye itself. So which part of that's correct? Maybe none of it, but I think it was R that had presented the idea of Mono being created by the Eye. I don't know where he got that. I was thinking that the children in general might be created by it, because they're coming from somewhere. I thought that the children might have been created by the Eye based on the concept that Mono was in that regard, but the reality is that Mono has been suggested as a creation because of the fact that he's the only one that really resists the transmission entirely. The idea of being able to resist the transmission from the signal tower brings me back to the Thin Man. I noted the idea earlier that the Thin Man may not have been targeting Mono in an aggressive manner, because there's a common thought that he may have been trying to help himself break the cycle by taking Six away and reaching out to Mono, who just fought back to destroy him to defend himself. So Mono essentially can put himself back in his own cycle. And then coming back to the cycle as an ending thought, on the story at least, sequel or prequel again. Going back to the idea that Little Nightmares 2 being a prequel, because of the order of events, and Firebird, you already said it, it's a cycle, so technically it is both. While the events of Little Nightmares 2 may lead to Little Nightmares and Secrets of the Maw, it's a cycle that repeats. So Mono's still going to come back out through that TV at some point, and Six is going to appear in the Maw again at some point. In that order, or out of that order, depending on which part of the loop you're in. So that's the overall story of the game. Now, one other aspect I want to touch on, and then we will close things out officially, is the children versus the antagonists. Let's consider them outside of this world. This world seems a little weird, does it not? So diving into the world of Little Nightmares is beautiful if you take it at face value and from the perspective of the children and how they interpret the world. However, there is a darker thought that the Little Nightmares can also be viewed as seeing the world through the eyes of a child, with fewer limits and more imagination, if you take it from that perspective. One thought that really stuck to me when I first heard it was how children don't see their teachers or doctors as real people who have their own lives when they're younger. They may see them as antagonists with one role to fill, hence the obsessiveness. Think about your own life where you've come across people like that. You know, if you see them outside of that role that they fill, it's weird. So the antagonists then, you have these antagonists in this story living in, another idea is that the antagonists, the doctor, the janitor, the teacher, the twin chefs, there's another take on this where those particular characters are living in their own form of nightmare, based on these dark scenarios that we keep finding them in. So kind of another take on it. So you have the children take, and then you have the antagonists take. And by antagonists, again, I mean the larger people, essentially. So two kind of different spins on this if you don't take the story at face value. But, it's way more fun to take the story at face value, but it's kind of a different psychological perspective if you look at it that way. And to kind of go back on that, one last thing I want to really bring out is you have the children that see adults with these boring and mundane lives, and think of yourself when you were younger. The adults, the antagonists, whatever you want to call them, when we're children, we always say things like, we'll never grow out of this, we're never going to become like them, even though things never really work out that way. There are certain aspects of our childhood we might hold on to, but we eventually change. And if you kind of look at the stories in that way, it gets a little bit darker and more depressing. But more real in that sense, too. So, those are the only things that I really had to comment on. I don't have any answers to... I know, Firebird, you brought up a great question with what is causing the loop. I think the only thing that's really causing it to restart could be the eye itself. I think the eye is the only explanation for that, if you follow the story at face value. And so, perpetuating this cycle is what's going to keep the story going. We don't have any more answers than that at this point, though. So most of these ideas that have been put out there, they're mostly fan thoughts, I think, and the developers probably love it. That's probably why they don't give any answers, because they'd probably rather have us come up with our own ideas, build on each other's ideas, and they're probably sitting there writing this stuff down because they're like, wow, this is good stuff. I really got to get that into another game. So, that is a great place to close things out. This is the end of the game, so thank you all for joining, and I will see you all later.